I'm a 34-year-old woman. I live in Washington, D.C. I work in marketing, and I spend my free time mostly watching YouTube, but also reading on certain topics like psychology and neurology, addiction, happiness, relationships, philosophy.
While I want to see my fellow commentators go all the way to the moon, my channel tends to get dislike bombed into all hell. So let's see if we can go all the way to the Mariana Trench and hit a PR of 10 dislikes on this video. Alright, let's go. Please remember not to send anybody mentioned in this video any hateful, mean, rude, disrespectful comments. I don't condone that. There's no point in it. You're not going to change your mind. And as much as you want to live your best life, do what you want to do without being told. She wants the same. Helloleesh, or Alicia Page, is a 35-year-old YouTuber that has qualifications as a marketer and in fashion and architecture, which obviously means that she meets the minimum requirements for giving mental health advice and diagnoses online. This is her story. Initially, her channel started out as a dedicated journal to her journey in sobriety, which fantastic work. We love to see it. Great. No sarcasm. That is absolutely fantastic work. I can't imagine how tough the struggle must be. She embraced the live, love, love kind of lifestyle until she discovered the magic of clickbait behind the name Gabby Hanna. And now we find ourselves here, a year later, trying to deplatform the poor girl. I'm going to use this video to argue how the criticisms that applied to the Rewired Soul are pretty much directly relevant to Helloleesh, except for some reason the community that actively criticized the Rewired Soul is somehow taking a step back and accepting Helloleesh. This leads me to wonder, is this a case of pretty privilege, or is it rather that people hate Gabby Hanna so much that they are willing to be blatantly hypocritical about the situation? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present how and why the Rewired Soul was criticized and how Helloleesh is doing exactly that, and then you can decide. Maybe you think I'm wrong, maybe you think I'm right, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get dislike bombed, so let's go.
How you talk to them.
That was one of the best things, is that I wasn't like a licensed therapist. I could say whatever. And the same thing on my YouTube channel. Like everybody's like, what are your credentials? I'm like, bitch, I don't got none. I can say whatever the I want, and you can do whatever you want with that information.
Right.
It is so nice. I am living the dream.
So, you mean to tell me that Chris has zero credentials?
So the most obvious criticism is that Helloleesh is not qualified in the field of mental health. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot speak on mental health. It doesn't mean that you can't present your own story and experiences and the discussions surrounding that. In fact, I think that's encouraged, right? She started off her channel by discussing her journey in sobriety and her specific story times, and I know that it didn't get as many clicks, I can tell. But when I did my research on you, Helloleesh, those were some of the best content that you produced.
Because, you know, back in when I started my channel, it was kind of like we had conversations around like sharing medical information of, you know, of people that that have not given you permission to do so. We talked about that. We've talked about, you know, being a friend, how to handle conflict, That said, I'm going to be real with you. And this is not a matter of being like, I need the views and the money. But when I get the criticism that like, please stop talking about Gabby Hanna, and then I talk about like a huge creator, Jeffree Star, James Charles, and the views are significantly less, like a fraction, it communicates to the creator, this is not what your audience wants. Your audience wants that other thing. What works is a big factor in what in I think what any creator determines that they talk about. So I don't ever want to talk about something that isn't important to me. I don't ever want to talk about something that I'm not interested in, and this is what I'm interested in right now.
And just because it went slower doesn't mean that the fan base that you garnered through those videos would not have amounted to the same subscriber base that's there for you and not hot tea gossip.
Personally, I think not putting some sort of disclaimer in every single one, even if it's just written, like it is with the drama channels when they have their like fair use disclaimer, even if it's just written or whatever, like have some sort of disclaimer that is like mental illness is a case-by-case situation. You should consult a therapist if you feel like you're going through mental health issues. Any trained professional talking about mental health would have done something like that, would have prefaced their videos by saying, like, this is a case-by-case basis. This is just my opinion. I am not your therapist, and I'm not, and he says this in videos, but he doesn't say it in every single one.
The Rewired Soul's presentation of not being qualified in mental health was...
Everybody's like, what are your credentials? I'm like, bitch, I don't got none.
But Helloleesh, on the other hand, does not put out these disclaimers. If anything, it's pretty damn tricky to find any place where she actually blatantly states that she's not qualified in mental health. She does not put out disclaimers. She does not have a description box saying that she's not qualified. If anything, she very strongly alludes to the fact that she has some kind of idea what's going on.
While I can't say this is an instance of baiting, I can talk about what baiting does to people. It is a form of, like I said, we were going to talk about, it is a form of psychological and or emotional abuse. It is a manipulation tactic to the extent that I understand psychology. Another reminder that I am no mental health professional.
So in this discussion, in this comparison between the Rewired Soul and Helloleesh, if you think that him blatantly saying that he's unqualified and her kind of not blatantly saying it, if you're wondering which one is better, let me reframe it to you like this. Which of these two are best? Is it better to be an overt racist or a covert racist? The answer is neither. You should not want to be a racist. Both of them are bad. It doesn't matter. They're the same thing. It's terrible. So no, if you're unqualified, you're unqualified. Do not speak on things which you know not of. Stick to your motherfucking lane, girlfriend. One of the biggest criticisms that the Rewired Soul received was that he was trying to diagnose people, but I tend to actually agree with Smoky Glow here.
In those videos, he talked about borderline personality disorder, which is what Trisha has been diagnosed as and has shared. So he wasn't diagnosing her. A lot of people are like, oh, he diagnoses people. I watched a bunch of his videos when I heard about this guy. He doesn't really diagnose people. However, he makes a lot of assumptions about people's diagnoses based on not knowing them at all.
Where she argues that the problem isn't the diagnosis, it's the interpretation and the projection following the diagnosis that is the real issue here.
Experiences. They were playing laser tag. It looks like she was cheesing it up for the camera, being cute, and it seemed like they were enjoying their trip, really. So it's possible still, of course, that Gabby had at least a panic attack and then was able to enjoy the rest of her trip. But the way she described it in her video, saying that she was, I think, on the phone with therapists and priests and psychiatrists and all of that, seems really exaggerated when we look at other clips from the same trip where she is clearly having a good time. What I do hold against her is the way that she described it in her video, if what I believe to be true of this situation is. Still, I don't know enough about manic and depressive episodes, though what I do know about bipolar, and there are people out there who know this way better than I do, but I have wondered too. I'm like, why has that diagnosis not been one that she's really talked about? Because people do. I've heard so many people who aren't existing like on Twitter and social media saying like, hey, because like I said, people from her life reach out to me and they're like, it looks like Gabby's having like a manic episode. And I will say to what you said, Nikki, this poem or whatever this is that she wrote, it does have like a somber tone to it, and that's sad, but it almost to me sounded like waking up. Let's not talk about mental health diagnoses, but maybe like this like high that she was on. Oh, that sounds like I'm talking about drugs, but like, you know, this high energy that she was giving off. Perhaps the stuff with Jesse just really just hit her too hard, and maybe she's knocked down and maybe she's waking up to reality.
The reason why this type of behavior is unethical is because you are leading your audience into projecting certain behaviors and kind of creating boundaries and barriers for the diagnosis, which In case anybody here does not know, those boundaries, those definitions of mental health concepts are within the DSM-5. And guess who can talk about the DSM-5 in any sense of authority? Qualified mental health professionals. Saying, for example, that this behavior falls under the category of ADHD and this behavior does not, is something only a qualified professional can say. I'm sorry that you do not like Gabbiana to the point where you decide what counts as mental health and what does not, but you do not get to gatekeep this. You have no authority in this matter, and you are misleading your audience, and it is unethical.
Being honest, if one guy made almost 20 vids on me, I'd probably file a restraining order, just to be safe. A little obsessive, but the money makes it all worth it, right?
Now, I'm a 20-something-year-old woman, which means that my entire YouTube recommendation is filled with weight loss cures and Gabbiana. So if you have any distinguishing features like me in your description, then chances are that you found Helloleesh organically just simply due to the algorithm. Which means that you know that this woman has a problem when it comes to talking about Gabbiana. And by that I mean there's just no stopping the hate train. There's no stopping it. And to the point where the Rewired Soul was called obsessed pretty blatantly.
When you make video after video after video on the same person, it kind of looks like you're being a harasser, you know what I mean? But you are creating drama commentary, so you're insinuating that that person has severe mental health issues along the way. You don't see a problem with that.
What the Rewired Soul is to Trisha Paytas is what Helloleesh is to Gabbiana. And by that I mean, Chris was criticized when making more than 20 videos on Trisha. And specifically after Trisha asked him to stop, pretty blatantly. Helloleesh, she doesn't feel like she has to care about the mental health of Gabbiana at all.
To allow Gabbiana or anyone to attribute this bad, mean, cruel, sadistic behavior to anything related to mental health or neurology. This is just a mean, cruel, sadistic person at that point. When you're feeling like shit and you go in front of your camera and you dance around to songs and make TikToks and you laugh maniacally into the camera when, like, Gabby, nobody's convinced that you're okay. Depression and PTSD and all of these things to kind of bubble up for people, that's power, Gabby. Do you feel good? I will talk about the mental health of Trisha. I will talk about the mental health of Oscar. I will talk about the mental health of the audience at large, my patrons. But what I'm done talking about is the mental health of Gabbiana. For the most part, I'm sure it's going to come up in conversation, but I don't want to consider anymore, like, what could she be going through right now that's causing this? Because I'll tell you what, nothing mental health related causes somebody to behave in this way. This is just somebody who's mean. This is just somebody who's cruel. When you see somebody kind of being emotionally sadistic, it gets to the point where I don't have to consider your mental health anymore. I'm sorry, you've lost that privilege.
And she has made more videos at the time of the criticism on Gabbiana than the Rewired Soul has made on Trisha Paytas. So obsessed, yes. Is it that she hates Gabbiana or is it for the clicks? I cannot tell you which way. I literally cannot tell you. I have no idea. I'm not even going to speculate because both of those reasons are absolutely vile. And me personally, I would be disgusted. I would never, ever, ever make 20 videos on somebody that I do not like, ever. Like, who has the time?
Welcome to my channel. Fucking, like I said, take me to Sue Court over it.
Another major criticism that the Rewired Soul received was the fact that whenever he did get any kind of criticism, he immediately went into a victim narrative where he would use his sobriety as a type of a weapon.
Anyone that disagrees with me are bad people that hate mental health. I don't mean to brag or anything, but in my first video, I did say that that was his defense to all criticism. He built a shield for his channel based on mental health awareness, so if you are against him, you are in return against mental health in his eyes.
This is a trend that I found with Helloleesh as well. These are the tweets. She is a renowned tweet and deleter, so some part of this you're going to have to take my word for it. If you don't, that's also okay, because I am willing to bet that in the next few videos she will probably out herself again. If you follow this narrative, you will see it.
Whatever you need to feel better, because people have said this and I I hold true to this, is that what you're going through is very difficult to watch. So we're all assholes for making fun of what we should have known was a mental breakdown. We should have known that. We just should have known, because it's not like she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital directly after that podcast, and then we found out that this was a very serious situation. I don't think that footage would have been released if this were serious in that way.
How many times do I have to say that I am not a drama channel?
So I decided to title this video, is this stuff commentary or is it drama?
Another little fun comparison here is how they both had an identity crisis with regards to the whole mental health channel versus drama channel versus commentary channel.
Of course, with that, especially when you're dealing with intelligent people like myself, like I believe Angelica Oles is, and Chris from the Rewired Soul, you can't help but start to analyze these situations and come to your own conclusions and opinions about them.
If at this point you still don't believe me and you think that she has nothing in common with the Rewired Soul and at best I am reaching, then okay, don't take my word for it, take Alicia's word for it.
Chris from the Rewired Soul, I haven't watched him in a while because he did make a shift in his content sometime last year, but when I was watching him kind of religiously, he was really kind of taking whatever drama was going on in the YouTube community and dissecting everything from kind of a psychological and neurological standpoint, and then finding some takeaways for his viewers to really implement in their everyday lives. And I really liked that about that channel, and it helped me in many ways.
Now, I'm quite aware that there are other reasons why Alicia has received criticism as well that do not fit into my video. One example being the whole ableist situation. If you don't know what I'm referring to, I will leave a link in the description box below. Secondly, the fact that she's obsessed with Gabbiana to the point where she got involved with Gabby's family, private messages, leaked DMs, those kinds of things. I could not keep up with that crazy story. It's whack. But the idea of being so obsessed with somebody that you would reach out to people in their non-public figures in their personal life is worrisome. I think that is deeply disturbing and worth criticism. That situation I do actually think was covered somewhat in the mainstream discussion. If I do make a part 2, then I'll probably include that story. And finally, her pretty loud and proud advocacy for the concept of deplatforming. Alicia, that's crazy. There's no reason to do that. We're in a global society and it's okay to have different opinions and feelings and thoughts from other people. Just because you have the inability to go away from people that you do not like doesn't mean that other people don't. And you have the mental gymnastics to validate the reasons why you speak on Gabbiana. So obviously you find some worth her being in the platform, even if it's not monetary.
I just think that there are so many conversations that come up about so many different topics, all because of this woman. And it just seems like with everything that Gabbiana does, another topic comes up. And part of it is that you kind of get stuck in this like loop where, we continue talking about it because there's a lot to talk about.
Whatever you're getting from this, you are getting something from it. So arguing that she should be deplatformed literally goes against that. This final section I want to call the conspiracy section because everything that I'm about to say is completely alleged and it's only patterns that I've personally noticed when trying to make this video. Purely speculation, and if anybody does have any receipts that I would want to share with me, or alternatively if I do find receipts to back up anything I'm about to say, then I will make a follow-up video and address these issues. Notice 2 things. The first one is, apparently there is a story about a minor fan that she invited over and some mental health crisis. Something happened. But the thing is, there is no trace of this event at all online. I can't find anything. I can only find people saying that something in that regard happened. So I'm not going to accuse Helloleesh of anything that I cannot substantiate. I have no idea what happened there. I have no receipts. I have no evidence. So I'm sorry if you came here expecting me to discuss that story. There is no trace of it online. I wish I could do better. I'm sorry. The other thing which might tie into this, and this is where the conspiracy gets juicy. If this is one of the first videos that you found on Helloleesh where the name Helloleesh is in the title, then I want to tell you that this is not the only video out there. The problem is that I've noticed is that many small creators, whenever they do talk about Helloleesh, they get dislike bombed into infinity, to the point where most of these creators state blatantly that they are not going to name her, they don't tag her, they don't link videos, absolutely nothing. This is a if you know kind of situation, which is very worrisome because for some reason this sub 100k YouTuber has this kind of hold or power over the community and somehow avoids criticism in that light, which to me means one of two things. At best, she is running a cult. I guess it's like Voldemort, you just can't say her name. The worst case scenario is that people are well aware of everything that she's saying and doing, but they dislike Gabby Hanna so much to the point where they would basically do what Ethan Klein did with Britbong. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and therefore this army goes full out and dislikes everybody into the point of absolute silence. Now that's just a conspiracy, I can't prove any of that. I'm not going to link the smaller YouTubers who did not refer to her by name because obviously they do not want to be associated with her at all. If any of these smaller YouTubers do reach out to me and want to be credited or used as proof or present, receipts of some kind, they are free to contact me and I will add them in the description box below, so be sure to check that out. I don't know, I would consider it a cult if most people cannot even mention me when trying to criticize me, but that's just me. All in all, I think the primary difference between the Rewired Soul and Helloleesh is the presentation of the package and not the contents. So if you hate Gabby Hanna to the extent where you are willing to be an open hypocrite, then you might need to touch grass and go see a therapist IRL. But in the end of the day, I'm just a thought with an opinion and I don't know shit about fuck. Remember to like, share, comment and subscribe. Peace!
Bye sisters!